2024 had plenty of ups and downs for the Cardinals. We'll start today with some positive news as the Gold Glove finalists were announced today, but we're also going to talk about some of those downs, including a situation that nobody in the organization was prepared for.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou, and a lifetime Cardinals fan, and I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter, X at JD Sports Radio, and the podcast at LO_Cardinals. I want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Find us on YouTube. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Interact with us if you haven't already, and hit that notification button so you know when new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode being brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to win $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. So before we get into the meat of today's episode, I wanted to start things off with some more positive news. You know, we talked more positive stuff on Monday. More positive news came out today on this Tuesday, October the 15th, which is my little brother's birthday. Happy birthday, Chris. Because the 2024 Rawlings Gold Glove finalists were announced today, and the Cardinals are well represented this year. Starting off at shortstop, Cardinals rookie Masyn Winn is a finalist for the first time, obviously, because this is his first full year in the major leagues. So talked a lot about Masyn yesterday and how he was much better offensively than many thought he'd be this early in his career, but that the defensive capabilities that he showed were also equally as impressive. You know, he threw out the stats yesterday. FanGraphs had him at 14 defensive runs saved, which is tied for sixth best in all of baseball, and not at shortstop, as I mentioned, in all positions. 14 defensive runs saved, pretty darn good. Tops at the shortstop position. Finished 3 better than the Angels' Zach Neto. Now, he did make 18 errors. That I pointed out as well. Fielding percentage, .971, which was 8th in the league at shortstop, but he was one of the best in the game. And Tuesday, he got the recognition that he deserves as a finalist. Now, his competition is going to be Gold Glove winner Dansby Swanson from the Chicago Cubs and the Rockies' Ezekiel Tovar. I think Masyn Winn has a very good shot at taking home this Gold Glove award. I think he really, really does. You know, the errors are high, but those defensive runs saved kind of, you know, brings that back some. So I think he's got a very good chance. Will he get it? We shall see. Being a rookie, I don't know if they'll hand it over to him over Swanson, but we'll see. We'll see. Next on the list, a familiar name over at third base when it comes to Gold Glove awards, and that is Nolan Arenado. Nolan Arenado offensively had a down year. We're going to talk about that in this episode. And to start things off, wasn't all that great defensively early on either. That was something that we brought up where it's like, okay, now you're seeing him struggle everywhere. He's not hitting. He's not playing defense all that well. But as the season went on, we saw Nolan become the guy that we're used to seeing down there at the hot corner. According to FanGraphs, he led all qualified third basemen in fielding percentage at .977. He finished at a +6 in defensive runs saved, which was tied for 4th overall. His competition for the award at third base will be Giants' Matt Chapman, his former high school teammate, and the Rockies' Ryan McMahon, who finished number 1 and number 2 in the DRS category. +17 for Matt Chapman this year, which is bonkers. And then +10 for Ryan McMahon. But both of them made a lot more errors than Nolan Arenado. They both made 15 errors, which was tied for the most at the position, while Nolan made just 9. So, again, it's going to be an interesting vote. I would guess that Matt Chapman would end up taking home the award over Nolan Arenado this year. That would just be my guess because of that ridiculous 17 DRS. But Nolan, again, proved that he is still an elite third baseman. Power numbers and all of that aside, defensively, though, that second half of the season, he was outstanding. And you were seeing him make those plays that we're used to seeing him do. And it was nice. So That's one thing that, he still offers at an elite level is that defense. How about Brendan Donovan up for another Gold Glove? Finalist for the Utility Gold Glove Award again this year, an award that he won in his rookie year back in 2022. Now, this past year, he logged innings in left field, right field, as well as second base, third base, made 2 errors, 2 all season. One of them at second, one of them at third. Made no errors in left field, which is where he played mostly this year. Now, according to FanGraphs, he was a -1 DRS in left field. Not the fastest guy in the world, so he doesn't cover as much ground as some of these other guys might. Was a +1 at second base, was even at third base, and he only played 1 inning in right field where he was even again. So overall this season, he's at a 0 defensive runs saved. He wasn't in the negatives, wasn't in the positives, but only made 2 errors. And his ability to be plugged in each day, either on the infield or the outfield, it makes him as valuable as anyone on the Cardinals roster defensively. So it's nice that he got the nod as a finalist. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Now he's going to be up against the Pirates, Jared Triolo, and the Dodgers, Kike Hernandez. Now, Triolo had some pretty impressive numbers for the Pirates. Played all over the infield and had a few innings in the outfield, but mainly an infielder. Finished a +7 in defensive runs saved with 3 total errors. Hernandez was in the infield more than the outfield as well, mostly at third base, but he logged innings at third, first, second, short. Then he played some left field and center field, even had a couple innings where he pitched this year. His overall DRS was a +5, but he did commit 10 errors. If there's one thing that I would say Donnie has going for him, because I would say out of the 3, he's probably going to finish third. That would be my guess, but is that he was playing every day. He was playing every day. The other 2 did not have nearly as many innings. Triolo played a little over 1,000 innings, ended up at 1,010, I believe. You got to trust me on my math here. It's going to be close, okay? I might have missed a decimal point here and there, but 1,010. Hernandez only 880, where Donovan logged almost 1,300 innings this year in the field. He was at 1,292. So, again, you can see why you could vote for the other 2, but understand why Donnie became a finalist and has a case to win his second Gold Glove Award. Now, the one omission that it's surprising to an extent, but our guy Michael Siani in center field was not a finalist, and I would assume that it was the injuries at the end of the year that probably had something to do with that. Finished with 838 innings in center field, did not commit an error this year, and had a DRS of +8. Outstanding stuff. Now, your finalists are the Nationals, Jacob Young, the Rockies, Britton Doyle, and the Brewers, Blake Perkins. Now, both Young and Doyle played over 1,200 innings in center field. Perkins had 956. Both Young and Doyle were +11 in defensive runs saved, while Perkins was a +8. The one that I feel like who got kind of shafted here, and yes, I'm going to be guilty of saying something nice about the Cubs right now. The NL leader in DRS was Pete Crow Armstrong for the Chicago Cubs. He was a +12, and he actually had more innings than Perkins did in center field. So I'm not sure what's up with him being excluded. Like, it's a little bit bizarre the more I dug into this. Young from the Nationals led the NL center fielders in errors with 8. Doyle was second with 4. Pete Crow Armstrong had 3. Perkins had just 1. Siani had 0. Doyle and PCA also had 8 assists, which was tops in the National League. Perkins had 7. Young had 5. Siani had just 1. So you can see why Siani didn't make the finalists. Like, I'm a little bit shocked that Pete Crow Armstrong wasn't up there instead of Perkins for the Milwaukee Brewers. But that's how it shaped out here. So we got the Gold Gloves out of the way. Winners will be announced on November the 3rd. So hopefully at least one of our guys will take home some gold this year. I would say Masyn Winn out of the 3 would be my bet to win it. If I had to pick a favorite of the 3 to get one. But I can make cases for all 3 of them earning a Gold Glove this year. But it's kind of nice that the Cardinals got 3 nominations and became finalists there. So good job. Got to get a little negative next, though. Let me warn you, we're going to get a little negative next. since we brought up all the things that, at least some of the things that went right in our last episode, we're going to go with some things that went wrong. And as I mentioned in the intro, the first one is kind of a duo of a situation that the Cardinals were not prepared for. Nobody really saw it coming, and it was one of the reasons why the Cardinals did not make the playoffs this year. We'll talk about it next on Locked On Cardinals. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, and it makes tickets, like getting your tickets, faster, makes it easier. And, when it comes to tickets in 2025, there's no other place you should be going when you want to go to the ball game, when you want to head down to Busch Stadium and you want to see Gold Glove worthy defense played by Nolan Arenado and Michael Siani and Donovan and Masyn Winn. You can do that with the Gametime app. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and their lowest price guaranteed. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets for Major League Baseball games. But it's not just baseball, guys. You can get in on deals to go see all of your favorite sports. Save up to 60% off by buying last minute for all your favorite sports, the NFL, college football, as well as concerts, comedy, theater, and more. NHL season is here. We got the Blues home opener tonight. So you've got hockey, college basketball just around the corner as well. So many things for you to go see. And Gametime is the one app that you should trust to get you into those events for the best price possible. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. You can leave your comments on YouTube as well as on Twitter, X, anytime you want. Your feedback is always welcome and encouraged. So the 2024 Cardinals finished with 83 wins. All right, not a horrible season by any means, and I can't help but wonder what they might have been able to finish at if they had better years from their supposedly two biggest offensive stars, Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. Where would they have been had they just been a little bit better? A little bit better. I'm not talking MVP numbers. I'm just talking about a little bit better. When two of the guys that are supposed to be your two best hitters do not end up being your two best hitters, you're going to struggle. And I don't care who your manager is. I don't care what the name on the front of the uniform says. I don't care. If Ohtani and Mookie Betts had career worst seasons, the Dodgers would be in trouble. If Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso both became below average hitters, the Mets aren't sniffing the postseason. If Juan Soto and Aaron Judge's production fell off a cliff, the Yankees wouldn't scare anybody. The Guardians, they end up getting half of the expected production from Jose Ramirez and Josh Naylor or Stephen Kwan, whoever that second person would be. They likely do not get to where they are today. That's simple. Simple facts. No team can really overcome the guys that they were supposed to bank on not living up to those expectations and being so much worse than we thought they were going to be. And that's essentially what happened to the St. Louis Cardinals this year. Most people did not see this coming. Now, we saw regression from their 2022 seasons when they were MVP number 1 and 3. We saw the regression in 2023. And then we saw it just nosedive here in 2024. The two guys who you were 100% counting on to be at least two of your 3, 4, 5 hitters in your lineup this whole year, the one guys you could absolutely trust, ended up hitting guys who belonged in the 6 and 7 holes instead. On top of that, you add the injuries to Wilson Contreras, who knocks out the other portion of your 3, 4, 5 guys, and you have got a real problem because Wilson Contreras missing half the season with injuries was a tough pill to swallow. I mean, that was rough. And the Cardinals actually did all right the first time through Contreras' injuries, if you remember. They actually were winning just fine. So plug him in every day and imagine where the offense would have been. So the Cardinals had a real problem this year offensively, specifically with runners in scoring position. You know how bad it was. And at the root of that problem were Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. So let's start with Paul Goldschmidt's numbers. As painful as it is to go through them, Paul Goldschmidt had 165 plate appearances with runners in scoring position this year. He hit .203 with just 7 extra base hits, 2 home runs, 5 doubles. He walked only 16 times. He struck out 47 times and grounded into 5 double plays. His on-base percentage with runners in scoring position was .284. His slugging was less than that. It was at .280. The OPS, .564. Total OPS plus of 62. Mind you, the average MLB hitter is 100. That's the average. 62 for Paul Goldschmidt with runners in scoring position. Just absolutely horrendous numbers all around. And this is a guy who was your NL MVP just 2 years ago. Just 2 years ago. So nobody really thought that was going to happen at that dramatically, that he would become that bad this year. Nolan Arenado, 143 plate appearances with runners in scoring position. Hit a respectable .272. But he just had 8 extra base hits. 4 home runs, 4 doubles. That was it. He only walked 10 times. Struck out 20. Grounded into 7 double plays. The OBP 315. Slugging 400. OPS 715. Total OPS plus of 98. So a little bit below league average. They just didn't do enough damage in situations where the Cardinals needed them to be difference makers and do some real damage. And this is one of the things that I bring up when people bash on Ollie, where they're like, how come he doesn't move the lineup around and try to do this and that? I'm the same way sometimes. I'm quick on the trigger when it comes to moving people around lineups. I don't know why they sit there as long as they do when guys are not coming through in those situations. But these are the guys that were supposed to be his main boppers. And so he kept putting them into situations where, all right, hopefully they'll come through this time around, right? And it just kept failing over and over and over. And yeah, maybe he kept him in those spots a little too long. I mean, how long was Paul Goldschmidt in one of those main spots where it's like, dude, you got to move him. He's killing us. Then moved him down in the order and ended up coming to life and actually got better near the end of the season. But when you have those two guys the way they were with runners in scoring position this year, not coming through, and then you don't have Wilson Contreras available, the pressure was, even more on Goldie and Nato to step up. And then you didn't have guys like Gorman or you guys like Jordan Walker around. So it was really all on their shoulders, as it should be. I mean, they're your highest paid players on the roster. They're likely future Hall of Famers. They're supposed to be able to handle this stuff, and they just crumbled over and over and over and over. And it was maddening to watch. And you also felt bad in ways too, because, we know these guys are human and we love these guys as people. Nobody in baseball is a better person than Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. Everybody loves them. They're respected, through the roof throughout the league. So it was tough to watch them struggle as fans, to watch these guys who have been two of the best players in baseball for so long just look like a shell of their former selves. Goldie had a WAR of 1.3 this year. Nato at 2.5. To put it in perspective, the MVP year for Goldie and where Nato finished third, Goldie had a 7.8 WAR. Nato was at 7.9. I mean, look at the difference there in WAR. Just, whew, again, falling off a cliff. So if you want to point fingers at one of the real reasons that this team failed to make the playoffs this year, you can't help but aim those fingers at Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. They're big boys. They can handle it, and they know that it was on them, and that this is a reason why things went the way they did, is because they weren't able to live up to their expectations. But they weren't the only ones that struggled this year. There were others. Two guys who were expected to be major pieces of this team in 2024 and in the future were MIA for a lot of this year as well. We'll talk about them next on Locked On Cardinals. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. You know how sometimes you'll be watching a game and you just sense a trend happening. You start to get what we call a hunch on what you might need to do in the middle of a game. Well, on the FanDuel app, you can check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more. And it's all on the same page where you place your bets. So when that hunch takes over, you don't have to go scrolling through trying to find where it is that you can do this or where to see this. It's all conveniently put on one page for you on the FanDuel app. So if you got a feeling about the Guardians and Yankees game tonight, Garrett Cole against Tanner Bybee, could be a pitcher stool. Could happen. Maybe you want to put a little something on the score tonight. You can do that. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Talking football, the Devontae Adams trade just went down. Amari Cooper just got traded to the Buffalo Bills. Maybe you got a hunch about what their futures are going to be like. FanDuel, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. Once again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. Thank you again for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen today. Now go check out the MLB Podcast. Sully is going to guide you through everything that's going on with the MLB playoffs, no matter who it is you're rooting for. He's got something to say about each and every game, each and every pitcher, every at-bat, all the wild pitches from the Guardians. I'm sure he's got some thoughts on that as well. So find the link to Locked On MLB in the description so you don't have to search. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So another thing that went wrong for the Cardinals this year was Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker situations. Now, at first, when I first started putting this piece together, I wanted to say their handling of young players in general. At first, that's what I was going to go with because there were some things that I didn't like. But there were also some things that actually kind of worked out when you back up and look at how the whole season came down as a whole. And when you talk about Masyn Winn having a tremendous year, could win a Gold Glove now. Certainly going to get some Rookie of the Year votes. Isn't going to win it, but deserves to be up there. Michael Siani, until the injury, was having a pretty darn good season. Was actually starting to put some things together offensively to go along with the defense. The catching situation, Contreras being out half the year, had to turn to Ivan Herrera and Pedro Paez instead of having your veteran back there, your high-priced catcher. It worked out all right. I still can't figure out why nobody can throw people out when they're trying to steal bases against the Cardinals. I don't know what that is. That's something we certainly need to work on for both of them. Yeah, I think I would have liked to have seen Herrera in the lineup more due to his offensive ability. But I wouldn't say they mishandled the whole situation. I think they did a pretty good job. They liked Paez behind the plate. He had the knack for clutch hitting. Would I have liked to have seen Luken Baker up on this team as a member of this roster as that big right-handed bench bat available for Ollie in games late? Yeah, I would have. I would have liked that. The Victor Scott situation was kind of an unfortunate one because they had to bring him up out of necessity because of injuries. I can't really fault them there, although I would have liked to have seen him play more in the final month that he did. I believe he is your future center fielder of this team, not Michael Siani. I think Scott's got a much brighter future. But Gorman and Walker were the most pressing issue when it came to younger players. They were supposed to be your main right fielder and your main second baseman this year. And neither of them were able to fulfill that role the way that I think we all thought they were going to and what the expectations were from the front office and, of course, us, the fans. We know that Walker has got his deficiencies in the outfield. -4 DRS this year in a very limited number of games at the major league level. But for a guy who just started learning how to play out there last year, I'm willing to cut him a little bit of slack. Not all fans are as nice as I am. Some of them are like that. We cannot have him out there anymore. Katie Woo from The Athletic even posted that on Twitter near the end of the year. She was like, he cannot be your right fielder next year. Something must be done. Gorman was a -4 as well at second base. He has also had only a couple of years learning to play that position. Both of these guys came up as third basemen. It's another reason why I don't understand the playing of your top prospect in J.J. Weatherholt at shortstop at all. He's not going to be your shortstop. He's not. He's going to be your second baseman, right? That's what you're grooming him for, right? So why is he playing shortstop at all? Second base. Get him over there now. Move him over there now. Let him learn early on before he comes up in the next year or two. Because Masyn Winn ain't going anywhere. But the offensive side was was the most troubling aspect for both of them. You know, Walker got 20 games before he gets shipped out until August. Comes up for that weird week, shipped out again, then brought back in September where they finally just go, all right. We're going to let him play. You're the everyday guy. Don't worry about anything anymore. And guess what? Jordan Walker responded. Hit .253, 5 home runs, 16 RBIs in 91 plate appearances over 25 games at the end of the year. And I did the math on this. And I'm not a great mathematician, but that's a pace of 32 home runs and 104 RBIs over a full season. Pretty sure the Cardinals, they could have used that kind of production from a guy. So I didn't like the way that was all handled. Nolan Gorman had 17 home runs and 47 RBIs in the first half of the season. Strikeouts were a major issue. We knew that Nolan Gorman was going to strike out a lot. He has at every level. Had 129 of them in the first half. Ended up getting 58 plate appearances in the second half before they can't fix him. He gets shipped out to Memphis. In those plate appearances, his average goes down to 182. 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, 22 strikeouts. You can handle the swing and miss and the strikeouts when the power numbers are still good, which is why in the first half, you're like, he's going to strike out 2 times a game. We know it's going to happen, but chances of him hitting one over the wall or plugging a gap or something are pretty good too. You can't deny the fact that he had 17 home runs and 47 RBIs in the first half of the season. You know, double that for a full season. You'll take that, right? You'll take 34 home runs and 95 or 94 RBIs. That would have been that math off the top of my head. So 95 RBIs. Wait, 47, 8, 94 RBIs. I told you, I'm not a mathematician by any means, but you would take that, right? But near the end there, I mean, there was no production coming at all. He wasn't hitting the ball over the wall. He wasn't hitting it in general. He was missing everything, and it became impossible for Ollie to start him anymore or even use him in any meaningful situation as a bat off the bench. So they're like, well, the guy needs to play. We can't just let him rot up here on the major league roster. So they sent him down. Something I brought up here before. Why can't the major league coaches fix these guys? Like, why do they have to be sent away to go get right? Like, they should be getting right at the major league level. That's why you hire these coaches. So hopefully whomever takes over for Turner Ward will have a better idea on how to turn these young guys around in the big leagues where they don't have to send them down to Memphis to get right. They can keep them up at the major league level. They go through a little slump, which happens to everybody, and then they come out of it and they're productive again. I think a lot of it has to do with confidence, to be honest with you. I don't know why some of our guys just looked like it was the same thing with Dylan Carlson. Like, he would come up and he looked like he was defeated already before he even stepped up to the plate. That's just a vibe I got off of him. It was the same vibe I was getting from Nolan Gorman near the end there, where it just looked like he just did not believe he was going to hit the ball. And if the guys in the minor leagues, these coaches are so much better than the guys you have on your major league roster, maybe they should be the hitting coach, which is something that could happen. They could be hiring the guys from down there and bringing them up. So we'll wait and see when that gets announced. But those are a few of the things that stood out to me that went wrong and led to this team not making the playoffs. There's a lot of other little things that, obviously went down, but it was really the offense that shockingly let this team down. I mean, when you go and you look at the pitching and you look at the defense, pretty much did what you thought they were going to do. They kind of did their jobs. Would you have liked to have better pitching? Sure. But the guys you had kind of did what you thought they were going to do. But the offense did not. The offense did not. They were well below what people expected from them this year. And unless you have a rotation that consists of, Tarek Skubal and Chris Sale and Zach Wheeler, Corbin Burns and Dylan Cease, unless you got those guys who can just completely shut teams down on any given night, you're going to have a tough time winning enough games to make it to the playoffs. So, and it was something that, I like to give John Mozeliak a hard time here, but, it was something where last year we weren't worried as much about the offense. We were like, well, we expect progression from some of the young guys. You still got Nato, you still got Goldie, you still got Contreras, Newbar, and Donovan, and you got all these guys who were supposed to hit really, really well. So they put their efforts towards the starting rotation, went out and spent a bunch of money to fill that out, got as many arms as they could for the pen. Thought you had kind of a good puzzle put together there, only to be let down by the big names, Goldie, Arenado, Gorman, Walker, and of course, injuries to Contreras. I mean, you take 5 big dudes out of your lineup. Again, I don't care who you are. You're not going to win. It's just not going to happen. And they still won 83 games. Despite that. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What are some things outside of the ones that I brought up that you think were wrong with this team, which caused them to be a non-playoff team this year? Like, I find it hard to believe that anybody's going to disagree with me that the offense was a big problem and that's why it happened. But I'm sure there are other reasons. We can discuss them. Bring them up. Let me know in the comments down below. We can do a recap on, the good and the bad in an upcoming episode. Give me your best and worst things, if you will, about the Cardinals on the field in 2024. I know ownership is a problem that you guys are mad about. I understand the stuff with John Mozeliak you guys are upset about, but as far as just the players went and how things were done on the field, what are your thoughts on that? That's what I want to know more about, okay? Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, give us a follow on Twitter, X, and at LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. You can like and subscribe on YouTube. We're pushing for 11,000 subscribers now. We're a little under 200 short at the moment. So, if you come here for Cardinals content and you like what you're hearing, make sure you like, subscribe, and help our channel and our love for the Cardinals grow even more, because it's up to you. The more you like and subscribe, the more Cardinal fans are going to find us, and we'll all be able to sing Kumbaya together in 2025, right? You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason. I will see you next time on Locked On Cardinals. Have a good one.